Feel like anytime you create a content plan, you never end up following through? Welcome to a very popular club on the internet full of super smart business owners just like you who just haven't found the right content planning process to make getting consistent with content practically inevitable. So, if you've got one too many unfinished content plans, I've got a process that you need to know about. Welcome back to Your Content Empire, the YouTube channel dedicated to helping you get more consistent and profitable with content the easy way. I'm your host, Haley Dale, a content and sales funnel strategist obsessed with bringing you all the latest and greatest in content and marketing. So let's talk content plans, particularly the content plans that just end up collecting dust and causing guilt. If you're watching this, I'm betting you know exactly what I'm talking about. Here's the thing, you've got a ton of great ideas and a ton of value to offer, so that is not usually the problem. Where I see most people struggle with content planning is that they're trying to pack in too many of these great ideas into one content calendar, back to back to back to back feature style. Never giving themselves any room to breathe, to realistically do everything else that they have to do, like running their business, taking care of customers, doing client work, or having a life. Listen, I'm not about to tell you to stop being ambitious or stop setting ambitious goals if you want to. I'm a Capricorn, so ambitious is kind of my MO. But I am going to show you three simple shifts, simple being the key word that you can use to make a content plan that'll help you get consistent enough with your content to reach those ambitious content goals. Shift number one, set your MVO. Your MVO is known around these parts as your minimum viable output. And for your content, this refers to the bare minimum content you need to publish on a regular basis. You can definitely create and publish more than this, but you'll at least want to know what that minimum bar is. Here's an example. Yes, it might be nice if every week you could publish a new blog post, a newsletter to go with it, daily posts for Instagram and Facebook, plus a gaggle of images for Pinterest pinning too. But maybe you know at the very least you can publish a new blog post every month, send a newsletter bi-weekly, and pop a couple of posts up a week up on your social media accounts. Yes, you'd like to do more, but at the very least you can do the latter. And sometimes when you're super busy, that low bar lifestyle is where it's going to be. This is your MVO, and it's going to look different for everyone, and it's going to evolve over time the longer you're in business. I know for me, it can also change from season to season depending on what's going on in my business and life, too. Here's a little story time. Once upon a time, sweet but naive past Haley, full of good intentions but majorly short on time, planned an all the bells and whistles pre launch campaign for my biggest launch of the year to run while I also happened to be tramping around Europe for 4 weeks. Not only did I barely scrape by with publishing anything from that list, but I was stressed the entire time instead of being fully present on this once in a lifetime trip. Here's why this matters. It might not be an epic vacation for you, but it could be Saturday mornings you want to spend with your fam, or when you're stuck working instead, or when you get slammed with client projects and your own stuff keeps falling to the bottom of the list. The point is that by knowing what your MVO is and using it as a backup plan for your content plans when things can't go according to the ultimate plan, this will keep you from just going radio silent with your content, a total momentum killer. So here's what I want you to do. Number one, create two lists. On list number one, I want you to write down everything that you want to be doing content wise, anything you typically include in your content plans that you normally create. Number three, once you have that on list number two, write down everything you'd like to do at the very least. What would you be happy with? What is the bare minimum that you can show up? Now, the big question, how often are you achieving the things from list number one and list number two? Less than 50% of the time? If that's the case, it is time to simplify. I typically recommend starting with your MBO and then slowly working up to your ideal over time as it starts to feel easier and you get more consistent with your content. Shift number two is to pick a few platforms to go all in on. So, when gone are the days when it's wise or even possible to be everywhere with your content. Years ago, when I was first starting my sales funnel agency and was helping visionary business owners create their sales funnels, we'd come up with the final phase of the project, which is all about taking that brand spanking new funnel and driving as many of the right people as possible to it. That way, when we measure it, we can test and make sure and optimize that sales funnel. So we start start to see some sales from it immediately. So I'd start our strategy call off by asking them to list out all of their dream spots where they'd like to be showing up. And then they'd list everything they could think of. Then I'd include a step by step strategy for each one of those platforms. You want to guess how many of those early day clients were actually able to follow through on it? Almost zero of the ones who didn't have a lot of help on standby. So now that we're wiser and smarter, we take what they are already doing and optimize it with workflows and strategies, and then add on one new traffic activity a month. And the follow through rate on that part of the funnel package now has gone through the roof. So, what does that mean for you? Well, it means that if you're having trouble following through, maybe it's time to prioritize just one new spot or even just one total, and then you can add on later if you want to. When it comes to choosing, I like to take the ease approach, which is just my fancy little acronym way of breaking down the only four types of platforms and strategies that you need to focus on for a well rounded and profitable content strategy. E stands for educate, which is usually some kind of blog, podcast, or video that lives on your website. A stands for attract, which refers to the one platform that's designed to get your content and expertise in front of new eyeballs. S, which means sell and refers to the one strategy or one funnel or one launch type for selling your offers. This might be an evergreen sales funnel, launches, or something else. And this is definitely one area that you're going to be adding to over time. And finally, our second E, which is one platform that's designed for having two-way dialogue and conversations with your existing community. If those are the only four that you do and you prioritize doing them really, really well, you won't have to do anything else, and your follow through will be much more consistent than it would be if you were doing the average 13 plus platforms and strategies that most business owners attempt to do. So, over to you. Which platforms are you prioritizing in your content plan? Shift number three, set up a simple measurement system. That brings us to our final shift on how to create a content plan that you'll stick with. Setting up a simple measurement system. One of the biggest reasons business owners don't stick with their content plans comes down to motivation. Have you ever found yourself feeling stuck on that content hamster wheel and you finally get a new post published, and before you even get a chance to breathe, it's time to create the next one? And what's even worse is that it feels like nobody even saw the last post. So it feels like you're creating all of this content for no reason. Talk about a motivation killer. One of the best ways to give yourself a true perspective on what's working and what's not is to set up a really, really simple measurement system for your content. That way, you can understand the real picture of how your content is performing, even if no one is commenting on it. And if the numbers are low, it gives you the insight you need to pivot your strategy, pivot your topics, pivot your platforms, so that you can start getting that content in front of people who are actually going to be taking action on it. Like maybe no one's seeing your latest post because you aren't really doing your part to promote it. I've definitely been in that situation before. Now, you don't have to get complicated with this measurement system, but for every piece of content you publish, write down where you post it and what metrics you have access to. The main thing we want to be measuring for social are number of impressions, number of traffic, and number of engagements. The main things that we want to measure for blog content are number of views, source of those views, and the main things we want to track for emails are number of clicks. You can also track the open rates, but given the iOS changes, those are highly unreliable. You can get a lot more complicated than this, but it can also be just as simple as this too. So your take action challenge for this shift is this. Next time you publish a piece of content, schedule 5 minutes 7 days later to go back and measure it. That's all you got to do. So, are you ready to create a follow through proof content plan? Let's recap our action steps. Step number one is to set your MVO, aka your minimum viable output for your content. Step two is to pick a few platforms to do really, really well. Step three is to pair your planning process with a measurement system. And if you don't have a great content planning template, you can download my free monthly content planning kit. Down below this video, I'll put the link there to put these tips into practice. And let me know in the comments which of these three steps you most need to use right now. Make sure to like and subscribe if you want to be the first to know when the next video goes live. Hint, it's Mondays. Ring the bell, and until next time, here's to your content empire.